Okay, this is Austin Hendrick. Austin is a 14U. He plays. I think he plays for the West Hill Show and all the other teams as well. He's a very high level player. I met Austin when he was probably 8 years old in Green Tree when I coached over in Castle Shannon, and Austin was such a talented hitter at such a young age, and the first time I saw him swing a bat, I couldn't believe the amount of bat speed he had for a young player. What we would routinely do is move our two best defensive players to the right side of the field whenever he was up because we knew that he was going to go ahead and give it a good rip. Sometimes we had success, most of the time we didn't. Um, you know, there's three things that stand out in Austin's swing. This is a very standard stance, so there's nothing too special here. But the bat speed is the number one thing that stands out from Austin. I'm not going to get into that too much. That's a product of swinging extremely hard as a young man, uh, making it so that he could swing even harder as a maybe an 11 or 12U, and now that he's 14, getting into 15, he just has incredible bat speed. He works very hard. He's a nice kid. Um, of all the things that somebody that knows this kid would say, it would be that he's such a hard worker and he is such a respectful young man. He's very genuine, humble, despite being so talented, and all those things serve him well and keep him hungry, I believe, to be even better. So I wanted to illustrate three things. Number one is the bat speed. We already talked about that, and if I ran this at full speed or you ever saw him swing, that's very evident. There's many different ways to get there, but like I always say, if you have it when you're young, if you work on it when you're young, it's a lot easier to build when you're older. Number one is unique timing that Austin has. This is unique to him. This is where he starts to pattern what he's going to do, what he sees from the pitcher. This is unique to Austin. I've never seen this anywhere else. You'll key in on his front foot here and how many different in and outs it does on the way to stride foot plant, which is eventually right there. So between here and here, there's a lot going on to help him with his timing. Now, this is unique to Austin, as I mentioned before. I'm sure there's been coaches that try to take him out of this thinking it looks weird. I'm glad they've been unsuccessful because I always say I don't care what happens until a player gets to about here. So whatever Austin has to do for good timing, I salute. Good for you. Um, Clearly, he has come up with this over time. He's very comfortable with it, and it's something that works well for him. I've seen him try other things, but I'm glad he's come back to this because when I remember him as a young man, he did this, and he continues to do it to this day. So, number one, impeccable timing, which is completely self-taught, or I'm sure his father worked with him a lot with it. Whatever he developed on his own here for timing has added to his success. Austin is able to generate extreme bat speed to the ball with good timing. There's always two types of error. There's where you swing and when you swing, and when is just as important as where. If you're going to manipulate the barrel to the ball, it doesn't matter if you don't have the when down. And Austin, more often than not, has the when down. Okay, so that's one of the things that stands out to me. That very unique load. Okay, and drive to the ball. He gets incredible drive to the ball with this unique movement with his lower half. Okay. Everything else at stride foot plant is pretty typical. He's doing two things that we love to see. We love the arm bar there. That creates a lot of torque and is half the equation of bat speed. And then, of course, we see, the good barrel loading, which is good. So those two things are very typical at stride foot plant. We see that from a lot of players. The last thing I wanted to point out really separates Austin from other kids. I'm going to go through a couple of things that he also does well. You're going to see incredible knee drive here. He is a kind of player that takes his foot off the ground as he drives forward. That knee is nice. It's a good angle to the ball there. Again, nothing too different than the lower half there that you see from other players, okay? But here's what is. I'd like you to look at his hands at impact. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a frame that shows impact. I have just before and just after. There's just after. And there's just before, okay? I'd like you to look at how close his hands are to his body. And this is one of the things we talk about a lot. He's spinning here like a barber pole he's turning like a barber pole, not spinning. I hate the word spinning because that means we're not using the ground. Clearly he's using the ground. We illustrated that before with the load. But his hands are very close to his body. pre and post impact. And we always use the boxing analogy that we want our extremities close to our core to be more powerful and more accurate. And he's able to keep his hands very close and generate a ton of power, and they go hand in hand. You'll see just after impact, his hands are still very close and not extended, and then he just turns and has a very long decel, despite being two-handed. He's got from here all the way to there to slow down. So plenty of time for him to stop the train after impact there. But that yellow line that I have right there is the most important part of his swing in my, well, boy, that timing thing is so unique. That might be the most important part. But this is responsible for a lot of his power, is how close he keeps his arms to his body. A body that I saw him last week again in university, he has worked very hard on, and it's not a surprise because I know that he's always been that way. So I'm sure he spent a lot of time in the weight room. He's as big as any junior or senior I've seen, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of schools very interested in this young man. But I just wanted to illustrate one of Austin's swings. It's the only one I was able to find online. He is one of the players that people stop what they're doing to watch him swing. It's fun to watch him swing, and I've been privileged to see it since he was 9 years old and develop a good relationship with him. And he's such a good young man and always very respectful and says hi wherever he is and takes the time to ask how you're doing, and is very humble and works really hard. And I think that's what motivates him. He's such a good kid, and always wants to get better. So those couple of things: number one, the bat speed, which is incredible, and number two, that very unique load that is unique to him. Again, that front foot does some crazy things on the way to stride foot plant. Incredible back knee drive into the ball, but the hand staying close to his body, and the nice long decel are the clues to his successful swing. That's it.